The weird thing I bury that makes earthworms fight over my garden. When I first started gardening, I thought getting earthworms into my soil meant one thing, buying them by the pound and dumping them in. But over time, I learned a secret that changed my garden forever. There's this one odd thing I bury in my beds that earthworms absolutely swarm to, so much so that it sometimes feels like they're fighting for space. Today, I want to share that secret with you, because if you want thriving plants, healthier soil, and an endless supply of worm castings, this trick will blow your mind. Welcome back to Soilsage Chronicles, where we dig deeper, literally, into soil secrets that make gardening easier, greener, and way more fun. Let's get into the weird thing that keeps my worms working overtime. Why worms matter more than we realize. Before I reveal my little worm-attracting secret, let's quickly talk about why worms deserve the spotlight in any garden. Earthworms aren't just creepy crawlers underfoot, they're nature's soil engineers. When worms move through soil, they create channels that improve drainage and aeration. Their castings, the polite gardening term for worm poop, are some of the richest natural fertilizers you can get. Castings are loaded with beneficial microbes, plant-available nutrients, and organic matter that plants gobble up like candy. If you've ever had a bed full of worms, you know the difference. Looser soil, faster seedling growth, and healthier plants overall. The weird thing I bury: spoiled pumpkin and squash. Here it is, my secret: old pumpkins and squash. Yes, the ones you forgot on the porch after Halloween. The ones that went soft at the back of your pantry. The ones you might otherwise toss into the compost heap. Don't throw them out. Bury them in your garden beds. Worms go absolutely crazy for pumpkin squash and other cucurbit family members. Their soft, fleshy insides break down quickly, creating a moist, microbe-rich environment worms can't resist. I've dug into beds where I buried half a pumpkin only to find dozens, sometimes hundreds of worms wriggling all over it, feasting like it's Thanksgiving dinner. So why pumpkins? Why not just kitchen scraps or coffee grounds? Pumpkins and squash have a few special qualities that make them worm magnets. Moisture. Well, their flesh holds a lot of water, so even as they break down, they keep the soil soft and damp. Worms need moisture to survive, so this is an instant draw. Sugars and starches. As pumpkins decompose, they release natural sugars and starches that both microbes and worms love. Think of it as dessert for your soil. And here's something cool. Unlike woody stems or tough kitchen scraps, pumpkin flesh melts into the soil quickly. This means the buffet opens fast and worms don't have to wait around. Seeds and rind. Even the tougher parts of a pumpkin eventually soften and provide longer-lasting organic matter that keeps worms coming back. So if you're new to this, here's exactly how I do it in my garden. First, I cut the pumpkin into large chunks, usually about the size of a fist. If it's already mushy, honestly, I don't bother cutting. It's going straight into the ground just as it is. Then, I dig a shallow trench or hole, about 6 to 8 inches deep, and drop the pieces in. This depth is just perfect. It's deep enough that pests like raccoons won't smell it easily, but still shallow enough for worms to find it fast. Finally, I cover it with soil and, well, forget about it for a few weeks. When I come back, I usually find the remains crawling with worms and surrounded by crumbly, dark, worm-rich soil. I rotate where I bury pumpkins in my beds, so, over time, the entire area gets enriched with organic matter and worm activity. It's like free fertilizer that keeps on giving. My first pumpkin experiment. Let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, after Halloween, I had 2 pumpkins rotting on my porch. Instead of tossing them in the compost pile, I decided to bury them under a raised bed I wasn't planting until spring. When I came back to prep the bed months later, I could hardly believe what I saw. The soil was crawling with worms. It was fluffy, dark, and rich, like the perfect potting mix, but straight out of the ground. That was the moment I knew. Pumpkins weren't just compost material, they were worm magnets. And once I saw the effect on my plants that season, bigger leaves, stronger roots, fewer pests, I was hooked. Other weird things worms love. Now, while pumpkins and squash are the gold standard, worms aren't picky eaters. If you don't have pumpkins handy, you can also try melons. Watermelon rinds or cantaloupe shells are worm favorites. Overripe cucumbers or zucchini. Same family, same attraction. So, when it comes to soft fruits, think bananas, pears, and apples, especially those mushy ones. The key here is softness and high water content. Worms really don't want to gnaw on tough, dry scraps. They want something they can, well, slurp up. Now, tips to avoid problems. Of course, burying food in your garden does come with a few things to keep in mind. Depth really matters. If you go too shallow, you'll attract pests like rats or raccoons. But if you go too deep, worms may not find it. So stick with about 6 to 8 inches. Also, don't overload one spot. A whole pile of scraps in one hole can go anaerobic, which means it'll get smelly and slimy. It's better to spread things out instead. So, it's best to avoid meats and oils in your compost. These just don't belong in the garden. Worms won't touch them. And honestly, you'll only attract pests. If you stick to organic, plant-based scraps, your worms will thank you. The best part of this trick isn't just the worm party, it's really what they leave behind. Every time worms chow down on a buried pumpkin, they're creating castings, nutrient-rich, microbe-active soil amendments. This natural fertilizer spreads throughout your beds as worms move around. Instead of spending money on worm castings in a bag, you're actually creating them for free, right in the soil where your plants need them most. That's gardening efficiency at its finest. So, there you have it, the weird thing I bury that makes worms practically fight over my garden beds. Pumpkins and squash may look like waste when they start to rot, but to worms, they're honestly a 5-star meal. And when worms are happy, your garden is happy. If you've got a few old pumpkins lying around this season, don't toss them out. Give them back to your soil and just watch what happens. You might just be surprised at the worm frenzy waiting beneath the surface. At the end of the day, gardening isn't about complicated hacks. It's about working with nature. And sometimes, the weirdest ideas turn out to be the best. Burying pumpkins might seem a little silly at first, but when you see the results in your soil and plants, you'll know it's totally worth it. I'd love for you to try this in your own garden and then share your results. Did you get as many worms as I did? Did your soil transform overnight? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this little soil secret, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this with a fellow gardener who loves discovering new tricks. Here on Soilsage Chronicles, we've always got more underground wisdom to unearth. Happy digging, and may your soil always be alive with worms.